Hi, welcome back to Marriages and Miracles. I'm Jason Bovee,
I'm Amanda Bovee.
and we are here on our second episode. Thank you for joining us. And this show, we talk about all things
Revival, of course.
revival. And we're coming to you from the Move Church in Ashtabula, Ohio.
This is a podcast / show. We're on YouTube.
Yeah.
Where we just highlight what God is doing personally in our marriage and then what he's still doing. So this is episode 2. And also what he's doing in our region, because one of the things that we desire is for us to show that God is still the same God yesterday, today, and forever.
Yeah, that's right. And by the time you guys hear this, it'll be after the weekend, but it is Good Friday.
Yes, sir.
Today is Good Friday. We're recording on Good Friday. And I just want to say I want to send a special thanks out to our pastors, Pastor Sam and Sherry Vicente here at the Move Church, because one, they're letting us use their equipment and to do this. And they believe enough in our story and they think that it'll help enough people out there. And they're here on their day off when they could be at home watching TV. They're here at the church.
Yes.
So we can record this. So I just want to give them a big thank you.
Yes.
And I just want to say that without them, we wouldn't be sitting here right now. So it's not only just using their equipment, but they are definitely true pastors. They have walked us through every bit of reconciliation, and I don't think without them we would be here right now.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of prayers and a lot of discipleship. We're big.
Definitely discipleship.
We're huge on discipleship.
Yeah.
So, and the faith for the Lord to move. You know, I think it's important. We're going to roll right into this, baby.
Go ahead. Keep talking.
I think it's important to have people around you that will help champion and remind you in your season of struggle that you need other people's faith sometimes, because sometimes we can be in seasons where we don't have it ourselves. And that's why I think it's so important for the body. So
Yeah.
I'm especially thankful for that. I'm especially thankful for a congregation and leadership that really believes in the restoration of marriages and really believes in the miracles for today, and not only believes in it, but is willing to put like their feet on the ground. I think sometimes we don't always see that, and so we are very thankful for our leadership and our pastors and still walking us through, because
Yeah, absolutely.
we still going through it.
I've never seen it. I mean, I don't have a big, I don't have a lot of experience with churches and pastors, but to those that I've met and those that I do know, they would never have gone through the time that these two pastors here have.
Well,
they didn't know me
Lonnie,
they didn't know me from Adam. Well, yeah, absolutely. Pastor Lonnie and Pastor
Lonnie.
Gary, I
80
mean,
years old, she can run circles around us.
Sure.
can.
But I'm talking about specifically dealing with us,
Yeah.
And we're nobody special. I've watched them do this with
Everybody.
several different people in this congregation. There's way too many names to just put out on our 40-minute podcast, for goodness sakes. But they have walked so many people through process and have just picked them up and dusted them off when nobody else would have given them a chance. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody out there knew, what kind of people they are. They are, we've said it before, the pastors, the shepherds. And they're just great people. They're just great people personally and professionally. They're great people.
We love them. We honor them.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
We are very, very thankful to be a part of the body, because I think that was something that I prayed for a long time. And I joke all the time that, like, God, put them in a Pentecostal church.
Yeah.
I prayed. I was like, Lord, please put him in it. When you say like, and you were always a believer, but when you said yes to the body of Christ, because I think
Right.
that was a big struggle of like saying yes to the people of God,
Yeah,
because
but
the people of God can hurt us,
absolutely.
and there's a lot of stuff in
Religion.
churches.
Yeah, religion
Yes,
absolutely hurt
yes,
me, you know.
numerous times.
Yeah, I mean, the more and more I learn about it, I can picture them in the black robes like the Pharisees, you know. So hashtag Pharisee much, you know. I mean, I see it a lot.
I would
I see it a lot. And
insert. I got an insert. Can I insert?
yeah, insert.
I was at the Christian bookstore,
Yeah.
and there was a book that said 25 signs you might be a Pharisee. I knew you was going to use those buttons. I was
Can't
like,
wait to
is
figure these
that, this is
buttons
a
out.
spirit filled, this
Yeah.
is for sure spirit filled. It said 25, 25
Yeah.
signs you may be a Pharisee.
25
And so
signs.
I
Only
think
25.
only 25.
Only 25. It must be the top 25.
Well,
because
true that. But
okay.
we do, I think that the Lord has used this congregation and this body to win you over, specifically to the people of God.
Yeah.
Like you always knew the Lord, but giving your yes to your personal call
Yeah.
and giving your yes to a body of people and coming in and letting your guard down, I think, and I don't want to speak for you, but
Yeah.
you know, even for myself, when we go into a church, it is, you know, there's been a lot of hurt in the church, and there's been a lot of things that it's people. And I always say that, you know, people are people and they will hurt you and they will do things. And I think that this is a very unique community because that is,
The church. The
yeah.
community in this church.
Yeah, the community in
Yes.
this church is like
Well, our community is
just
pretty
the
unique
tight.
too, but I mean, the community
What you
within
talk
this
about, Willis?
church, this is truly a community of church.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, some of the people here, they wouldn't have never been accepted anywhere else.
Yeah.
And I've been to enough churches to know, you know, any church is going to take you when you're cleaned up. You know, anybody's going to take you when you're cleaned up and you're ready to go. This is one of the very few that I know of, the only one I've ever been a member of,
Mhm.
that will take you and clean you up
I think
and
that,
just walk you through the
yeah.
entire process.
Yeah, I think that's part of what God is doing in the revival that we're seeing, though, is I think
Yeah.
He is building communities like this that, and I see them, you know, we don't see them a lot in our region, but um, like fire filled, like willing to walk with you through the mud. And that's like when we opened, I talked about it's important to be around people that are going to cheer you on and say like, I know you can't see the miracle, but I see it for you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and again, I think it's very important to highlight the fact that we have to like be willing to walk people in process, because religion does say we want you when you're cleaned up, and you know, we're all learning and none of us have arrived, and I've definitely not arrived, and you have not arrived, and we have not
No.
arrived, and we've never arrived, and even our, you know, Pastor Sam says it all the time, like when we have not arrived, nobody's arrived.
No.
Like this is not a sprint, this is a marathon. And so I think that's one of the things that the Lord is doing in this revival that we're seeing, is He's building communities that will go through the thick of it and go through life together. And when you call and say, hey, can we meet to like, can we walk through this together? They're willing to do that. And
Yeah.
and we try to make ourselves available to do that for others as well, because
Well, how many times just us alone, just us trying to work our lives out and trying to figure things out and trying to figure this reconciliation out? How many times have they dropped everything for us? You know, I mean, they've got a massive congregation here.
yeah,
You know, and this ministry is it's 5 years old.
yeah,
We've been in this building less than a year.
yeah.
You know, and it's just growing. It's amazing to see.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's going on here, and it's beautiful.
It
You
is
know,
beautiful.
it's beautiful.
The Lord is on the move.
He is on the move.
The Lord is on the
He's
move.
on the move. He's on the move.
He's on the move.
It's not just a name.
Yes, and the fact that years of us trying to figure it out, and years of prayer. I've said like you got to sow in prayer. Like I
Yeah.
think that we have to be willing to sow in prayer. We have to be willing to sow for our families and our marriages and our communities in prayer, because we are a result of prayer. We are a result of people praying for us. We're a result
Yeah.
of our individual prayers when we both were like, nope, we're done.
Right.
Over and out. We're done.
Yeah.
So on our last episode, we ended with the day we separated.
Yeah, the day we separated.
So you can go back and watch that, and we're going to pick up there.
Yeah, so where we left off was the day the day we separated, and I guess what I'll start with how I went through the first couple of weeks. So we separated. I packed my things up and grabbed the dogs and just left. And I think at that time too, I was still in that rage that that episode, and you may be able to sympathize with it, but you'll never know what it's like. A lot of times us going through those episodes, those of us that are suffering with what I was suffering from, that I still do suffer from, unmanaged at the time, I
with
should
PTSD,
say.
yes,
Yeah,
if
with
you're
PTSD,
new here.
yes, those that are new. You have to complete the mission. You've got to complete. You've got to go A to B, and it wasn't subsiding for me. And throughout our marriage, when I would get into those episodes, you always had this way of calming it and kind of, I actually sent you that reel that I saw, and it's the guy's just going through. There's all kinds of noise in the background, and then all of a sudden his wife touches his hand, and then the noise switches to this somber music, and that's how it was for me. Sometimes it took longer to subside. And when I say the noise, it was noise. It wasn't always voices. It wasn't always, it's not like it was some static or white noise or something like that. It different. It's very hard to explain. For those of you that are suffering from it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm here with you. I know. And but trying to explain that to you, it was very difficult. You wouldn't have known, and that was the challenge in our marriage. Was fix me, but you didn't know how. And and it was very rough. Sometimes it would just start to slightly go away, and sometimes I just needed sleep, and sometimes I just needed to know that you were by me, and you were the only person that was ever able to do that. And and I think that's why you've always kind of been my security blanket, which made the first couple of weeks, and segue into that, that first couple of weeks without you, it was tough. It was very tough. There's not a word stronger that can describe it.
Should have brought tissues.
I was going to work, but I was there, and the guys at work, oh, bless those guys. I've got some of the best guys, some of the best friends that I work with. I mean, they walked me through it, and they took time away from their families too.
They're good people.
They're great people, and just a bunch of good guys. And one in particular, he was there with me a lot. He just he'd come over, he'd have a drink with me. He'd sit out on on the back porch, and we'd watch the dogs run around, and I just sometimes not even say anything at all, just being there.
Yeah.
And and I think he would agree when he was, when I would say that he was afraid. I think he was afraid a lot of times to leave me, and I'd get phone calls if I wasn't at work on time, and it was, and it was all of them. You know what I mean? It was the guys from the store. There was a lot of people that checked in on me a lot, and I think a lot of people took care of me, but it wasn't. It just it was getting to the point where I didn't want to hear from anybody. I was slowly withdrawing, you know, and with anything, you look at people and you say, well, it's just something you got to go through. He'll get over it. You got to let him. He'll sort it out, and he'll sort it out, and he'll get through it. So at the time, I'm out at my dad's house, and it's peaceful and it's tranquil out there, but you're isolated. Like there's nothing out there.
It's country.
Yeah, and it's beautiful and it's peaceful, and some people need that, but I needed the busyness. I needed to be busy, but I couldn't leave because I had the dogs,
And one was a puppy, so
and he was a pup. So for those of you that don't know, we have 2 Dobermans, and they're great dogs. They're the best dogs you could ever ask for. They're great dogs. And at the time, Kaiser was a puppy, and I was staying at my dad's summer home. He was in Florida for the winter. He hadn't come home yet. So I was staying there, and I couldn't leave. I couldn't leave him alone because I was so afraid he was going to tear him up, and there was no way I was going to keep him in a cage. I just felt awful about it. So I stayed home, and I kind of suffered through it there without being able to stay very busy, just with those two. And I'd start reading, and I tried reading the Bible, and I'd get through a verse or two. I didn't understand a thing, at that time, I was just kind of starting to get it, and and we split, so I tried reading that. I tried praying, and then in the back of my mind, it's like, oh, you're not doing that right. You're not reading that right. You're not understanding it. You're not doing this. You're not doing that. And I reached out for help, and I reached out to somebody that I thought I could trust, and they didn't want anything to do with me, and now in their defense, they didn't say that in so many words, but
I think to say like the catching net wasn't really there. You know what I mean? Like the net to like be like, we're gonna walk with you.
well, no, there was no intention of walking with me through anything. They checked the boxes with the compassion, but it was just and again, I'm not going to say the exact words, and the signal to me was, hey, we're going to kind of put you on the back burner for a while, because Amanda's going through it too, and she's the priority, and which I understand. You had a better relationship with them at the time, and I didn't. I was Amanda's husband. I was. I wasn't invested like you were, so I was sacrificial, and I understand that completely. But I had nowhere else to turn for help, and I thought that it was something spiritually that could help me, and I was denied. Now, there was a certain point in time, and I'll get to that, where they did reach out to me and did offer me some help. Um, but even that turned out to be just awful. So those first couple of weeks were, they were horrible. Again, I was going to work, but I was there. Like, I was just there. And it was just a means of passing 8 hours in the day. And I still had to come home. And, it was tough. We weren't talking to each other. And if we did have any contact, we were just awful with each other.
It was not good contact.
No, it
Yeah.
wasn't. It wasn't good contact at all.
There's a lot of bitterness. There was a lot of hurt and resentment.
Sure.
And it was, it was difficult. I think the biggest thing was, for me, the reason why it was difficult because I wanted to be with you, but I knew that, like, there was so much stuff. Like, we just couldn't figure out how to get through the mud. You know what I mean? Like, but we both wanted to be together, but it's like you couldn't. You know what I mean? So that was the hardest part.
Yeah, it was. I don't know how to. I don't know how to describe it. Like I said, for so many years, you were my security blanket, and then now,
It's gone.
are we together? Are we not going to? Is this going to blow over? And a week goes by, and you're like, okay, I can deal with a week. We've been mad at each other for longer than this before.
Right.
And then 2 weeks go by, and now it's really starting to it's almost like a withdrawal, and the brokenheartedness starts to set in. And in the meantime, I'm dealing with all this this other stuff, all my junk, and it's just going crazy. And it's going nuts, and I'm getting desperate. I'm reaching out to anything and everything, and it was an ugly time for me. I wasn't sleeping. I couldn't sleep. I'm in a strange home. I'm
Away from your home.
away from my home. I'm away from our entire social circle at the time revolved around that place. All of our friends, everybody that I knew for the last year and a half revolved around that place. And, the friends that I did have, they were there for me. Don't get me wrong. They were, for the most part, just a phone call away. But, it was just different, and, I felt abandoned, and yeah, it was some of the hardest days, some of the darkest days of my life, some of the darkest days of my life, and that led up to that one point. But I guess before I go any further with that, I'll take me through or take us through your first couple of weeks.
I was mad.
Yeah.
I was mad. I did the same thing. I think you go and you're around people, and then when you're around people, it does make it easier. You know what I mean? And then when you're alone, like, you have those friends that you call at night, and you're like sobbing on the phone, and you're like, this is terrible. And I knew, like, after a week, I was like, okay, Lord, I really thought, like, that there was nothing left. I did. My prayer was that was not true. But as much as you say, like, I was your security blanket, I was so sad to be, and I was heartbroken to be away from you. But at the same time, my physical body had a relief from being really your Holy Spirit, because what you needed was the Holy Spirit to be that. You know what I mean? So I almost felt like a relief from trying to be that because I tried to be, I became like I knew that I was that. So that was my body like had a relief, but my heart was like broken. So you stay busy and I mean, I don't think people talk about like how hard it is. I remember saying like death is easier, because like if somebody dies, you don't see them out.
Right.
And I'm not saying this to be insensitive to someone that's, loved one has died, but there's a piece of knowing there's like that's the final chapter. There's a lot of studies that show that divorce is like a death.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
And I was like, man, it's so hard and to mourn someone who's alive. I would say that to a friend of mine that I would call. I have a precious friend that I would call, and I had a community, but I didn't really lean into a lot of people, like to see them. And I remember someone saying to me, like, I haven't seen you mourn, and I haven't seen you like cry, and a part of me was hurt by that because I'm like, then you just because you don't see it don't mean it ain't happening. Like
Right.
the strength that people saw in me, and still when I was able to post because I had the joy of the Lord.
Yeah.
And no matter what, it's different. I remember you calling me and saying, like, with or without you, I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
And that's different because when you walk with the Lord, there's nothing that can rob that joy from you. Like, you may be mourning, you may be grieving, you may be hurting, but at the end of the day, when you have the Lord,
Yeah.
it's different.
Right.
It's different. Right. So I remember someone saying to me, like, I haven't seen you mourn or I haven't seen you like grieve. And I'm like, well, that doesn't mean I'm not. You know what I mean? Like, so
Right.
I think if you are going through this, one, don't check off boxes. You know what I mean? I think people expect you to check off boxes. That was like the weirdest thing for me.
Well, people expect you to react the way they're going to react.
Yeah, and I'm like,
and that's not always the case. It's different. Everybody's unique,
mm-hmm.
and it's even more so when it comes to mourning. Some
Mm-hmm.
people can just say, "Yep, no problem. I'll just go get another person." I'll just go find somebody else. And if I had a nickel for every time I heard that, don't just go find somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it wasn't that easy. There wasn't even a want to do that.
Well, that would make my stomach turn when I thought about
Yeah,
that.
I thought about that too. I was like,
Oh.
I don't want to have to get to know somebody. I don't want to know. I don't want to have to
Start all over.
I don't want to do all that. And I remember thinking that too. I was like, oh God. I was like, we're 2 weeks into this, and this is my second divorce. I'm 46 years old, and I'm going into my second divorce already, and wondering if it's just going to be better to spend the rest of my life, single. I mean, do I want to have to get to know somebody? Somebody my age has already got kids, some grandchildren already. Like, do I want to realize? Do I want to?
Yeah.
Do this?
I know.
And I didn't. The answer was I didn't. But my pride wouldn't let me say, my pride wouldn't let me say, that you don't want to do this. Just make your way back. And there was no making my way back at that time, anyways. You know what I mean? We were in such an awful place with each other. There was no communication at all. We have little communication now, but at least it's much better than it was. And we're learning now. But then, just the sound of each other's voices would enrage each other. And but I didn't want to be with anybody else, it was ugly for me. It was just an ugly time. But
I remember thinking that. I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, Like, I do not want to do this over. And then there's the grief of I didn't want anybody else. I wanted you. And I knew that was the same for you too. But,
Right.
you know, just the thought of like, oh my gosh, starting all over
Right.
with somebody else and somebody else's family and
Yeah.
somebody, you know, like we know each other's family.
Mm-hmm.
Like we know,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like just starting all over and then seeing like other people having to see the good, the bad, and the ugly out of me.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like because we're human.
Sure.
And I thought, like, man, that is awful to do that again.
Yeah.
Like to be.
It was, and for whatever
Single.
reason now, I understand we're 2-3 weeks into separation. You know, at this point, it's only 2 or 3 weeks, but still, I was so miserable. I was planning for the future. You know, I was like, just give me something to look forward to. Give me something to look forward to. I'm gonna be, you know, this isn't over for me. It's you know, I've been here before, and I'm reaching down deep trying to find that
The grit.
you know, that battle hardened Marine. And it was nowhere to be found. You know, it wasn't. I could not snap out of it for nothing. It was just an awful time. And that's only the first 3 weeks. You know,
And we were separated for what, 9 months, 6 months?
Yeah, 9 months.
9 months.
9 months from March until
November.
November. Yeah, so like 9 months.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, something like that. Can't math right now.
We're not mathing.
Yeah, but yeah, it was a really tough time for both of us, and I guess I was looking to see where we were at.
I don't know how I'm going to edit that out, honey.
Yeah, and we're not going to be able to edit that out.
We don't know how to edit.
I
So
don't want to bore everybody, you know what I
No.
mean? And,
So I think this is
this is probably a good stopping point. What do you think?
Yeah, this is a
So,
good stopping point.
I hope we have gotten at least a little bit further than the first one.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
So thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us for episode 2, and we hope everybody had a wonderful Easter. We hope everybody got some quality time with their families.
Yes.
For those of you that only show up to church twice a year, hopefully you had a good service. And I know we're going to have an excellent service here at the Move. And well, until next time, we love you guys.
Yes,
bless
we
you
bless
guys.
you in the name of Jesus.
Absolutely. And you know, just a little piece of advice from me, you know, for those of you that are out there that are thinking about that life is going to be better without her or without him.
It's not.
It's not.
That's right.
You know, the grass is
Not greener.
the same color on both sides of the fence.
It's only greener
All
when you
right.
water it.
If you think it's greener, it's probably because you've got the wrong colored glasses on. So, you know, it begins with us. And as soon as you can sit down and start hashing out old problems and putting those problems to rest and just letting it go, that's when it really starts to work out for you. That's how it happened for me. But well, until next time, everybody, thank you, and we'll see you again.
We love you.